Good morning.
Good morning.
Mary Plunkett, formerly known as Sister John Clare.
Correct.
Welcome
Thank
to
you.
the recording of your life in 30 minutes.
Or less.
In 30 minutes or less. So thank you for your willingness, as I nabbed you because you've been in here for a couple weeks, to share your story, to share. That's part of the history of the congregation, so your input is very important. So this is part one, so maybe sometime in your future we'll do part two, whatever that will be.
If I come in for another hip replacement or something like that.
Right, that's right. So anyway, I'm delighted that I can interview you. So let's start at your beginnings. I think you started your life in Detroit?
That's right.
All right, do you want to tell us
Born
about
in Detroit.
Yeah, where you went to school and siblings, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. I went to school at St. Matthew's, IHM, nuns, and I have one sister who is a year younger than I. And actually, both of us were born in June. So for 8 days, we're the same age.
Really?
My mother, no, I won't say that part. No, but after my mother caught on, we didn't have any more, just two girls born in June. So anyway, that's it. And my father and his brother owned a shoe store named Plunkett Brothers. And so...
And where was it located?
Downtown Detroit, Park
really?
Avenue.
Really?
And in fact, when these Oxfords came out, but you know, not the kind we wore as Pashas, but then some came out later that just had 3-tie, and I had them.
Right.
And everybody wanted them. So one of the nuns, I think it was Michael Dennis, said, "Mr. Plunkett, when the nuns come in, put those 3-tie Oxfords under the counter. They're not supposed to have those."
Yeah.
But I had to wear mine because, you know, vow of poverty, what you have, you use up, you don't throw away.
Yeah, heard that one before, Mary Ann.
That's right. So anyway, that was my experience getting shoes from my father's store.
And you could go there and just pick them out and pick what you wanted when you were a kid and stuff?
Oh no, because they were women's shoes and heels and everything like that. So even though I looked and everything, nothing was appropriate. I don't even know where I got shoes in those days.
So you went to St. Matthew's and you had the IHMs.
Right.
And that was grade school. Was there a significant sister or someone in grade school that had an impression, or made an impression on you?
Yeah. My 7th grade teacher, Sister Lamont. And even in high school, I used to go back and see her. I don't know for whatever reason, but she just was something special. In fact, when I would go home on home visits, my mother would take me with a companion to Monroe, and I could visit her during the summer. She was really, really nice. And so,
what was it about her that, you know, kind of connected with you? And
I don't know what it was.
Okay.
There was some. Oh, and then she was assigned to St. Hugo's Parish, and I used to go there for Holy Week because they had wonderful liturgies during Holy Week. So she'd be talking away. She was very talkative, something like me, or like I am at times. But she would always say, "I had her in 7th grade." That's the way she'd introduce me. I had her in 7th grade.
she was very proud of that.
I guess so.
How did she feel when you became a Dominican?
Well, these were her words. "Well, I don't know, you have to think, but you had us for 8 years, and you had the Dominicans for 4 years." I just said,
Oh, and your point is?
Yeah, and what am I supposed to do with this information? No, but and even when my mother died, she came to the funeral. And once, when I was at St. Paul's in Grosse Pointe, one Sunday afternoon, she came over with another nun. You know, not calling ahead, "Are you home?" Just assume. And I was still in my bathrobe and everything. And she came over and had a visit and everything.
Nice.
It was really nice, you know.
Is she still around?
No, she went to a better life.
Okay.
So,
all right, so then you had the IHMs and you had the Dominicans. And so at Dominican High, what was your life like there, and the nuns and how they touched your life?
Well, I'll tell you, I had the best nuns at Dominican High, really. I never, this is awful to say, but it's true. You can say it if it's true. But I never heard anybody scream. And they were just very calm and very, very nice. And then there was no screaming around our house because my sister and my father was not real well. So we never had much action going on, like you'd have with boys. And when we got into the order, or when we entered, about the second day there or so, there was something we were supposed to do. And for the first time, I heard this screaming that I never heard before. And the nun, was yelling at somebody in the back of the room, scolding them really, because she had just made a point, which was true. Said, you don't say, what did she say? You say, what did Sister say? And just that, and then this poor soul back here said, what did she say? And oh boy, she let out a scream. And I'm way up here in the second seat, crying my head off because I never heard anything like that before. I thought, oh God, something's wrong. Somebody went crazy or something. I don't know what to do. You might have to cut that part out. I'm not mentioning names.
Okay. All right. So how was that decision to enter the convent, and how did it affect your parents or your sister?
My sister was fine with it. She got all my clothes. And, for being just barely 12 months apart, we weren't that close.
Yeah, okay.
And so she had her friends, I had my friends. And, it's funny because we were saying the other day that the people that I was close to in grade school and high school are the ones I still keep in contact now. Mary Ellen will still call me or something like that, And it's interesting because listening to their values and how they raise their kids and how they're so astounded by what goes on now. And then I have this family upstairs from me, and they learn a lot on the school bus, let me tell you. And so, once in a while we share things like that and everything. And so, but first day I was here, she called me,
Your sister?
Oh, no.
No.
My friend.
Your friend.
My friend from grade school, high school.
Okay.
Yeah. No, my sister is, she doesn't like the phone too much, and so she would rather text or something like that,
All right, so when you entered back in 1956, went through formation, and tell us a few of your ministries. You can't name them all because we don't have the time. But there have to be a couple that maybe left an impression on you.
Okay. I went out right after profession.
Right, I noticed, yeah.
Yeah, and I went to Fort Lauderdale. And I lived with Anastasia, who's here now.
Oh, right across the hall.
Right across, right. And then after 2.5 years, I think I was at St. Anthony's in Fort Lauderdale, I was assigned to the Dominican Republic.
Ooh.
And that was 1960 to 65. And those were quite turbulent years, I'd say. You never knew when they were going to overthrow the government. And the first thing they do when they overthrow the government is close the airport. And nobody can get out. And so we had some nuns visiting from Puerto Rico, Sister Agneta and her companion. And Sister Agneta was the superior there. But one thing, you don't want to get caught on an island with the airport closed with certain people. And they took her as fast as they could to the airport. And when they got there, it was closed. Ooh. And so as she came around the corner of in the car, I'm back. And so, but she handled it very, very well. She had a nice gold chain and medal. And these were young boys with the guns. And the rest of us are on the floor, cover your head, and here's Agneta sitting in the chair, taking off her gold medal and giving it to the young man, She knew how to do it to get along, to go along to get along.
Go along, That's a good phrase.
That's right. That's what I used. When I was doing social work, I had girls that had to spend the weekend in the youth home. And this one girl didn't get along with the person in charge there. And she'd tell me, and I said, you know what? She's got the keys. So sometimes you have to go along to get along. You're going to be there a lot longer.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Yeah.
she learned, you know. And she said, and you know what? When I got out, I met her in the grocery store, and she said hi to me, and she said I was one of her favorite people.
Oh, interesting. So that
Yeah.
that meant a lot. That helped you too.
Yeah,
along,
it did.
along
It
the
did,
way.
yeah.
So how did you get out of the DR?
Oh, well, the Marines came in
Okay.
and got us out because everything was closed. First of all, they took out all women and children, American and Canadian. And then we were going to go to Puerto Rico, we thought. But when we woke up the next morning, we were still right outside. I think you have to stay international waters, 6 miles, I think.
Okay.
And so we were still in the same place because the situation had worsened, and they open up the bottom of the ship and all the tanks roll out and everything. And I remember that one of the nuns with us was Dominican by birth, I guess you'd say. That was her nationality and all. And that was a particularly hard time for her because she left her family and everything like that. And people were talking and saying things, and here she was. So I remember the superior taking us aside and saying, we have to remember that she is Dominican by birth, and you really have to be sensitive to that. So, and that's something you don't think about all the time, So, anyway, we got on, and all these sailors and everything, we slept in these barracks that were like going up like this, and we ate the same food they did. I mean, it was really nice. Well, what am I saying? It was really nice. Well, it was a different experience,
yeah.
but it could have been a heck of a lot worse.
Well,
it wasn't
exactly,
bad.
exactly.
It wasn't that bad. And actually, it wasn't that scary. What was scary was getting out of the Dominican Republic when they said they'd give us 2 hours of safe passage. So they took us by bus, and people were standing along the side of the road yelling and all that, And it was scary then. But
So then the bus took you to the airport?
no, they took us to the beach, I guess you'd call it beach, and the helicopter. They had helicopters that would take us out to the ships because the ships couldn't come any closer.
Got it.
So this one man asked me, there are women and children here. We want to keep them together. And there were 16 nuns. So is it okay if we split you people up and let...
Yeah.
Oh, of course. So 9 of us went on one ship and 7
Okay.
went on the other.
Okay.
So, and the mothers and children, that way they could keep them together,
All right, so then you got to Puerto Rico?
We got to Puerto Rico and stayed for a couple of days. And then, it was like May or so, and school was still in. So they gave people some jobs, like go to this particular high school and teach this or correct papers or whatever it was like that. I stayed at Rosarian Academy with some of the nuns, and but they found places and everything. Nuns are always in need. They're in need of nuns, let's say.
Right. Well, that's great because then that's a tremendous experience that you had.
It was.
Yeah, as a young woman.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, seriously.
how old was I? Not very.
No.
No, it's
Okay.
like the one kid said to me, my mother says you're only about 20. And I said, no, honey, I'm the same age as your mother.
Who was 21 probably.
That's
Yeah.
right. She was 21, yeah. for
Okay,
sure.
so another experience in ministry. You didn't teach all the time.
No, I didn't. I taught for 30 years. And then I decided, I'm going to be teaching short A says, for the rest of my life if I don't do something, another preparation now. So I went to Wayne State and got my master's in social work.
But teaching short A says long A says A, that's a tremendous gift to give to people.
It is.
Yeah,
It
and
really
it is after years and years and years.
Right.
So you taught primary grades.
Yes. And I liked second because I always had First Communion.
Oh,
And
okay.
I like that,
But big groups of First Communion?
Well, in the beginning we separated the Saturday with the catechism. What do you call that? When they go to catechism,
Uh-huh.
and from the Catholic school kids, and then they didn't like that, so we intermingled them, and so that worked better, and that was fine. And so I did that, but going back to Short A says, kids, depending, I learned the sight method, and but I taught the phonetic method, Short A says, but now kids are, and these little kids upstairs that I help with their homework because their parents really aren't able to that much. Their English is their second language, but the kids know English from school, so they don't know how to sound out a word. And so when we went to parent-teacher conferences, I always go because their mother doesn't know.
Understand.
Not all of it, and she doesn't know a contraction. What do you mean by contractions and all? And so, but I'll tell you, they're using, this new math, Peg. The teacher sends home the answer sheet, and then Lawrence and I sit there. Now, where'd she get that 8? Oh, here, she split up the two numbers here, and she got 8. Okay. I mean, we have to try to figure out how she got these numbers.
So you had the experience of teaching previously, and now you experience what the young people are learning nowadays.
Differently, yeah. Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Common Core, I think they call
So
it.
when you gave up teaching, and you had a choice to do what you wanted with your future and education, you went to Wayne State.
That's
and
right.
Why did you go to Wayne State? What happened there?
Oh, it was right there in the city, and I liked it because I went there for some of my undergraduate.
What did you study there?
Kitty lit. What do we call that in
Children's literature?
children's literature?
Okay.
That's the word.
Okay.
Thank you. And I took some of the classes I needed for my bachelor's in education. So, and I liked Wayne State. It was in the city, and it was nice. And so I went there to finish up my degree in education, and then I got my master's in social work.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So it was a wonderful experience. It really was. But I was in like a 2-year program that was straight on through,
But then you had placement. Where did you go for your placement?
For placement, the first year I went to where did I go? Catholic Social Services.
Okay.
Which was near my house. And the second year I went to St. John's Home Health Care. And I had like the east side of Detroit, and the other person with me had the west side.
Got it, okay. Well, that
and you made home visits.
Yeah.
And you'd have to call ahead of time. And I mean, I was born in Detroit, and it wasn't scary at all. Well, a few years later when I was doing this, and so the gentleman said, okay, park in front of the house, and I'll stand on the porch, and I'll watch you come up. Okay. So then I got inside, and the lady said, they had been broken into a couple times, so she had a gun, and I said, where is it? Right here on this chair, under this chair. Ooh, okay. So anyway, but they were an elderly couple and all, and that's kind of what's left, at that time, left in Detroit. It's a lot better, a lot different
Good,
now.
it's nice to hear you say that. At that time it was that, but
That's right.
It is
Yeah,
better.
right.
There certainly are parts that are, very
boarded up and
yes,
all,
but there are a lot of good places and good parts and good
absolutely.
people.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. And sometimes I take the kids by, I shouldn't say the kids, the family upstairs. We went to the Capuchin Monastery one day to pray for their dad because he didn't have his immigration papers. And so we talked to the priest or brother there, and he had a tape on Mother Teresa that was in Albanian. So and this family is Albanian. And so he gave it to their mother, to Frida, and she said, when should I have this back? Oh, there's not too much call for that because nobody was clamoring to have this Albanian tape. And so she watched that and just absolutely loved it, And then we said some special prayers and all for their dad, and then I took them by where I used to live. And it's so nice, the streets are all kept up real nice and everything. I said, this is
You
where I
keep
used to live.
talking, Marianne, about this family upstairs. Where you live, there's an apartment, there's a place upstairs. Now tell us about this family and how you got connected with this family.
Okay. When I first moved to Fraser, I was on the second floor of an apartment, and in another building there was this little girl who was in, say, 3rd grade. Now she's driving the car. In fact, she drives me sometimes. And I tutored her in math, but especially in spelling. And this is where you realize she'd wait till 9:30 when I'd come home from work, and she'd call me up. Mary, tell me again, when do we use weather, W-E-A-T-H-E-R, or W-H-E-T-H-E-R? Because her mother couldn't tell her that, you know? And so I'd tell her and everything. And so one night her dad called me. Mimosa has a lot of homework. Can you help her? I said, I'm already in my robe. Well, we'll bring her to your house. Okay. Well, it's 11 o'clock. That's okay. I'll send her mother with her. And so her mother stayed there and made sure she didn't eat, she didn't talk or anything. It's 11 to 12. And boy, we did this homework. And
well, that was very generous of you, yeah, to accommodate their schedule.
Well, yeah, yeah. They, very often you find families don't have a clock in so far as when did I get here, when should I leave, you know, and they are, when they say I'll be over early, might be 10 o'clock, might be 11 o'clock, and these little kids are falling asleep on the floor because they have to go to school.
So you had to set some limits with
Definitely.
them. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And Carol Johannes helped me with that. And I said, I check out at 8 o'clock. I go downstairs at 8 o'clock. Anything you need, have it before 8 o'clock. And that's the way, because they'll take advantage of you without realizing it, you know. And so I would check out at 8 o'clock.
That's good. You need to set boundaries with
kids.
Well, with a lot of things.
Oh, with a lot of things.
lot of
that's
issues.
for sure.
So that's a personal experience that you have right now. But how long were you involved in Catholic Social Services?
I didn't. Well, that was just my placement.
Your placement.
My
okay.
placement.
So then,
that was
where
a year
you?
placement.
Yeah.
It was really 9 months, so you couldn't count it as
Correct.
a year. You remember how that went?
Yeah.
And so then my first job was Macomb County Community Mental Health.
That's right. That's right.
And I worked with, it was called Youth Services North, and they had youth services southeast and west and north, and that was very good. I liked that experience, but you know, I don't wish. I took as my what do you call this thing now? Wait, you call your concentration. I took family, children, and youth, because that's where my experience is mostly, and a lot of people took the clinical piece. So I was kind of lacking in that, and I went and got some help with that on how do you do Axis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all that, you know. But anyway, I had a lot of experience with families and children and youth, yeah.
And how was that for you?
It was very good.
Good experience.
It was very good. And I was there. Well, we moved to another building as we got bigger, and we changed the whole structure was changed. And so I was there 20 years.
Really?
That was my first place, and really my only place. And
place.
I'd probably still be there doing intakes if it weren't that my back started to act up.
Yeah.
And so I had been there 20 years. I taught 30 years. And so I talked to the chapter prioress and Fran, and I talked to her on Friday, and then I called her Sunday night. Fran, I can't do this anymore. She said, "Oh, I was expecting you to say that on Friday." So I mean, she could tell where things were going, and
that's a compliment to you, Marianne. That we have to know when it's time to let go, and it's a very important part of who we are and what we are about.
Right.
Don't worry what other people are saying. You and your gut know what you need at this time.
And people say, "Well, what are you going to do now?" It's like, don't worry about me.
Yeah.
There's plenty of stuff saved up that I can do, you know. But this family upstairs fell right into my hands, and the woman was going to have a baby. They were relatives. People are related, and so Mimosa's aunt, and there. And so They usually have uncle come from New York, and he's the godparent. And so uncle's wife was sick and couldn't come. So uncle said to, notice I call him uncle because I don't know, can you get somebody else? Oh, sure, I can get American, and she's a nun, and she goes to Mass every Sunday. That was a big thing, a selling point. And so I was so happy and pleased. And because Emily, she's going to come this afternoon and visit me, she's lost because she's down at my place more than she's upstairs. But as we learned in social work, they have to have a primary attachment figure. And so she was always with me. But when we were in the grocery store, all of a sudden this big long thunder came up, lightning. And I said, don't worry, I'm right here. She went to her mother. And I said, good, she's got a primary attachment figure.
So you are now in a different part of your life, another chapter we keep saying. You know, you were a teacher, then you went to the social work, and you certainly got some outside things. But what is it that gives you energy and purpose at this moment of your life? You've had some health issues, but you're taking care of them. You don't seem to be down and out with them.
No.
You seem to be handling them fine.
Right.
But what gives you energy and purpose? And when you're back home, that gets you out of bed in the morning?
Bed? Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I would say I really learn a lot. You know, when you're with young people, they keep you young.
Yes.
And I wouldn't know one song, one artist, if anything, or anything. Or words, oh my gosh, words that we said when we were kids and everything like this that were perfectly fine. And Tommy will say, Mary, you shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Why not? Well,
so there seems to be a mutuality amongst you. He may ask you about your upbringing, and you say something. Oh, well, thanks for time. He trusts you enough. So that's and so it seems like that family is one.
Yeah, it's like a second family because my sister lives in South Bend, and but her second daughter, Mary, lives in Grosse Pointe Park. And she and her husband, and they're about 25 minutes from me. And when I found out, when I had to go back to Henry Ford for this broken hip for the second surgery, I called up, Dave, can you please come? And I did not know, but Carol Jean called him the night before and took care of it all, and it was really wonderful. But I was so scared, you know. And so, can you please come? I'm going to be there at 10 o'clock. I'm leaving right now. So he was good. So anyway, so that's been a blessing.
How do you want to be remembered?
I think I'd like to be remembered as a person who cared about other people. Sometimes it gets you in a little bit of trouble because you have to take good care of yourself before you can minister to other people, you know. But I think that's the way I like to.
So you think you have that taken care of? You take care of yourself, and
I'm working on it. It's a work in progress.
Good, good. But you realize the importance of that.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I always say. The best thing we can do for the common good is to take care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yes, stay engaged. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Stay engaged and stay involved. Now, is there something that you were hoping I would ask and I didn't ask?
No, well, not particular. I mean, you covered everything very, very nicely. All my notes here.
What, do you want to check your notes to make sure?
I know it's on the paper. There was one thing I was just going to tell you is that when I was in grade school, I used to go to Mass on Saturday.
Okay.
And my father would go too. But in those days, we wore babushkas. Do you remember babushkas? And he would say, I'm not going to sit by you if you wear that babushka. So he'd drive me.
Because we had to keep our heads covered in those days.
That's right. And so I'd be over here with my babushka, and he'd be over here. We wouldn't sit together because I had to keep my head covered with in school we wore beanies, but remember beanies? And so I wore the babushka. And now I hear people talking about, because Albanians wear a lot of black babushkas and stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
every time I see those things, I think, oh, God.
We could never wear them. We could wear them during the week or to church and stuff, but on Sunday we could not wear. We had to have a hat or something.
Oh, a hat.
Yeah.
And when you got older, it had a veil.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anything? What's the best piece of advice that you have been given? You probably have a lot, but is there one in particular piece of advice you'd like to leave with us, and we could take that piece of advice with us as we listen to your story?
Sometimes, particularly at this stage of your life, you don't know what's going to come next. And so sometimes it can cause a little anxiety. And Carol Johannes told me this too. God never asked that we would not be anxious. He only asked that when we're anxious, that we trust in Him. And that's kind of what I try to go with.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And so I think from the time I was evacuated from the Dominican Republic, I have been a little anxious, about things. And so it's helped me to know, God, you trust in God even during those times. So
beautiful. It's a beautiful thought to leave with us.
Thank you.
What was it that was said at Jubilee the other day, that quote that Krista gave by Dom Helder? And she said it at the end of the welcome, and it just stuck with me. Now, of course, I can't find it, but it was a beautiful quote that be careful how you live, because your life may be the only gospel that some people may read or hear. Something
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
that really is.
So, and we never
something
know.
to think about.
Exactly. I just was very touched by that, and I thought, oh, that's a good way to kind of weave that into these stories. So anyway, thank you so much for your willingness to share this. Yes, you're a delight to be with. And the congregation thanks you for your presence with us and all the ways that you have preached, seek truth, make peace, and reverence life. So we wish you well in your healing.
Thank you.
And that you will be able to move on toward Detroit when it's time.
When it's time.
When it's time.
I talked to my cousin the other night in Las Vegas. She's a nurse. And I said, I have 5 days of physical therapy, and it's wonderful, and they stay with you. But by the 5th day, I am sore. And so I decided I had one of the pains that I had before my surgery. So I called and canceled. And I said, up she came afterwards. Now you have Saturday and Sunday. And I'm telling you, it was like getting scolded by Sister Mary Theodine in the 1st grade. And so anyway, my cousin said, think of it this way, Mary. Every time you go to therapy, it's like one step closer to your front door.
Oh, very good, very good.
Anyway, and yesterday was my evaluation. So she said, I think you're going to be okay by yourself now. I thought, by myself? I need a walker. I need something. I just can't get up and walk. And she said, you don't need, of course you don't need a wheelchair and walk. You don't need somebody to be with you all the time. And I thought, oh, good. So the word is independent.
Perfect.